Hello and welcome to Twerk, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing people, the fantastic jobs they do and the paths that led them to where they are today. I'm here today with Kirsty. Hi. I am here today with Kirsty, if I can speak properly. Hi Kirsty.
Hello.
Do you want to tell the listener what it is you do for a living?
Yes, I'm a British Sign Language interpreter.
Amazing! Right. As always, we're going to track back though. I'm going to talk about little Kirsty.
Yeah?
What were you like? What were you into when you were tiny small?
I've always been quite creative, so I used to love making storybooks.
Yeah.
Lots of writing, but I've always loved people.
Okay.
I've always written letters to my friends, and in fact when I moved recently I found a huge bag of letters that I'd written to my friends. I don't know why I've still got them. Maybe I didn't send them all, but I've just always been expressive in that way. I love people.
And communication.
Love communication, yes.
Yeah.
I just love being around people and getting that energy from others.
Yeah. Wow, okay. So I guess school was good then, everything? You enjoyed school?
Yeah, I enjoyed school. The school reports were always, Kirsty applies herself very well, but she talks too much.
Oh, it's because you're social, you see.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so school was fine, went on to college?
No, I stayed on at school and I did sixth form.
Okay,
so left in year 13.
What kind of A-levels did we do then?
I did business studies.
Yeah.
Unsurprisingly, communication studies.
Yes.
And IT.
Okay. Wow, and what were you thinking, or were you not thinking anything back then of where that would lead?
I don't think I was thinking of anything when I picked them.
Yeah.
Communication studies, obviously. I picked that because I like that communication side. I think business, I might have thought would be useful if I was to have a business in the future.
Yeah.
And I did quite enjoy doing IT. I know they don't call it that anymore, but I enjoyed IT at school.
Yeah, wow, okay. So, did your A-levels?
Yeah.
Then what happened?
Then I started working at a deaf school.
How? There's a big gap between that and that, isn't it? So how? What on earth happened there then?
Yeah, so bridging the gap, when I was 16, I came across sign language. And whilst I was doing my A-levels, so the 2 years of A-levels, I did level 1 and level 2 sign language at a local deaf school. So I was very, very lucky to have a deaf school about 10 minutes away from where I lived. And once I finished my A-levels, I remember I went out with my friend and I said to her, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I remember it was around April, May, and I just around finishing my A-level exams. I said to her, I just don't know what to do. And she said, you love sign language. What about thinking about an interpreter? And I was like, oh, yeah, I think
But how would you got into sign language though? I still think there's a big gap between that and that, because it isn't, as a 16-year-old, it isn't, most 16-year-olds are just buggering off doing all sorts, aren't they? So what interested you about it then?
So I was exposed to it through, we had a family friend and he used to come round our house all the time. He used to turn up. It was sort of the days before phones and he would just come on his
innocent
bike.
Times,
Innocent. Remember those days? And he used to turn up at the house and nobody in my family signed. My auntie could do the alphabet, so she would communicate in that way. But I just loved seeing my mum and my nan just making such an effort with him. A lot of people sort of think, as a deaf person, they'll go the other way or they panic because they don't know how to communicate. But my family really embraced that and it was just really touching. And then I went out with some friends into a local pub when I was 16 and I saw 2 deaf people signing and I just, watching them in flow, in conversation, I was just so fascinated that people can communicate using their face and their hands. It was just amazing and I was like, right, I need to learn sign language. And I think I got on, I started the course only a few weeks after that. I was just
and luckily,
so
like you say, it was really nearby.
Yeah.
So how long was the course then?
So level 1 is a year.
But what, like once a week or?
Yes, it was. So I think it was 2 or 3 hours a week.
Okay.
So I think it was a Monday evening actually. I did level 1 and and they taught it at the local deaf school. Then I did level 2 and that was, I think that was just over a year. And and then went on to the other levels, which were a lot more in depth.
Okay, so you did level 1 and pretty much finished level 2, and then at this time you're also finishing your A-levels.
Yes.
Okay, so back to your chat with your friends. Is she saying, why don't you do interpreting?
Yeah.
So what happened next?
It was like a switch went off. I was like, that's perfect. It just, it felt so right, because I loved signing. I didn't have any other interests. I mean, at school, you know, I want to be a nurse, I want to be an interior designer, all these options I went through, but nothing really felt right. And when she said that to me, it just felt perfect. And that was it. I was like, right, that's it, I'm going to be an
that's given me a little tingle, that has. But that's so rare though, isn't it?
Yeah. At such a young age as well, to just know.
Any age in some respects, to have that kind of, oh my God, this is it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did you go next then?
So I applied for the job at the deaf school, and I got that where I learned, and then I got the job, and I started in September. So what
was that then? What kind of job was that?
So the role was it's a CSW, communication support worker.
Right.
And a CSW works in education only, really.
Yeah.
And you can be qualified up to level 3 with that. So just for a bit of context, to be fully qualified like I am is level 6.
Right, okay, so at this point you're still level 2.
Yeah,
where
still
we are.
at my level 2 and still learning. But being submerged into a deaf community, Monday to Friday, 9 till 3:30, just meant that my signing excelled, because I was around it all the time.
Yeah.
And it was just, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Wow, gosh, okay. So then, and then you start doing your qualifications alongside, do you?
Yeah, I did. So I stayed at the school and I was there for quite some time. And then I found that so when I first started, the kids were signing better than me. Obviously, it's their language. But over time, I was then starting to get really good. And I've kind of got to my limit. So I was submerged in the school environment, but actually I needed to work now with adults in order to improve my signing at a higher level.
Yeah.
And so I applied for a job at a college, and again as a CSW, communication support worker, to support deaf students within mainstream. So it's a hearing mainstream college, and you would get like one deaf person that's in a class of however many hearing students. And I got the job and started working in a college.
And at what level were you at then when you got that job?
So then I started my level 3.
Right,
so I had to move up then.
Yeah, okay. So in that instance then, you were with that person in the class?
Yes.
That's how that worked?
Yes.
So you'd be assigned to whatever class they were?
Yeah.
And this was just college level, did you say? This is A level?
Yes, that's right, just
so
college
I guess
level.
it's not, like you say, there's some lessons, some not, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, and you're in there, I mean, oh my gosh, you're interpreting.
Yeah.
And what were they doing? What kind of subjects?
I had construction.
Okay.
So that was I'm
just picturing you, like even some actual audible words.
Yeah.
You go, I don't even know what that is. How are you then going to sign that to someone?
Yeah, it's a real challenge, because
I was saying, massive learning curve.
Oh, hugely. Because although at the school level, as you can imagine, it's not extremely high.
Yeah.
And some of the children also had additional learning needs as well. But then to go into a college, a mainstream college, and it was a huge one, with these different. So I had different students on different courses. So
and none of the courses you knew anything really about.
Nothing. I don't know how to lay bricks and all the different types
terminology for things, and
it
all
was
that.
Just
wow.
Yeah. So I did construction. I did hairdressing. Beauty therapy, which was quite nice, because sometimes they'd say, "Can I practice a facial on you?" I'm like, "Yes, of course you can." So free treatments.
Lay a wall at my house.
Yeah.
Wow. So did level 3.
Yeah, I did my level 3, and then I moved to Cyprus for 18 months. On my bucket list was to go and live abroad and experience something different, and I got to the point where I was in a good place at the college and I enjoyed it, and I split up with my boyfriend, and I thought, do you know what? Now's the time. If I'm not going to do it now, I'm never going to do it.
Yeah.
So I went and lived in Cyprus for 18 months.
As what?
Worked in a bar.
So you literally just got on a flight?
I just said, I
Did you know anyone out there? Or?
Yeah, luckily one of my friends had moved out there, which I think was one of the things that made me feel a bit more comfortable taking the leap. Yeah, and then because it was a touristy area, in the winter, everything closed down.
Yeah.
And so it was my second winter, and I was working one evening a week.
Yeah.
And I'm quite a driven person. I like to get out there and do things, and a lot of the time I was just in my apartment, and there was 3 girls that lived downstairs. They did seasonal jobs. So we used to just sort of drink tea and go for dog walks every day, which was nice, but I wasn't going anywhere in my life.
Yeah.
And I just thought, now's the time to come back to England and continue on the journey.
Pick up where I was, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so came home.
Yeah.
And then what? What was the next step?
Came home and I reapplied for my job back at the college, which I got, but that was around April, and they start doing their exams April, May, and the college goes very quiet in June. So I then started in the September.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, just did some temping work through admin agencies.
Yeah, fair enough.
Met my husband.
Oh, while you were just temping?
Yes.
Ah,
temping in his office.
It was meant to be.
It was.
Okay, so then September comes, you start back.
Yeah.
Okay, you're level 3.
I'm level 3, but I hadn't signed for quite some time, so a year and a half.
Yeah.
Confidence was low, if I'm honest. I knew my old boss, and she wanted me back, and she was really supportive, but I had lost all of that. I hadn't lost the language ability. I had forgotten a few things, but it was the processing and massively the confidence.
Yeah.
I knew a couple of the students already because their courses were quite long courses.
Yeah.
The staff I knew, the environment I knew, and my small team of other signers were just really, really lovely. And so I picked that confidence up quite quickly.
Brilliant. And then, as the saying goes...
And then I was there for a while, and then I started to do my level 6. So I was getting into the nitty gritty of it.
Where did level 4 and 5 go?
Well, they have level 4 now, and I think they have level 5, but they cut it out in my day. So it was 1, 2, 3, and 6.
Oh my God! And then straight to 6.
Yeah.
And is it a leap?
Huge.
I was going to say.
It's a huge leap, and
which is why there's now 4 and 5.
Yeah, I think the gap was so big they had to bridge it somehow.
Yeah.
So just to give a very little bit of context, level 1 and level 2 are just learning words and sentences and phrases. Level 3 is more interpreting, so listening to oral information and then turning that into sign language.
Okay, well, almost like an element of tone as well.
Yeah, oh yes,
because you were, so I was going to say, because gosh, I'd never even thought about that. Because like everything, it's like an email, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tone can be completely lost when it's written down, and someone, you can interpret something and that someone else didn't even remotely mean that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So if someone's saying something, unless you sign it with tone, it could be interpreted.
Yeah, and the tone is all in the face, it's in the body language.
Yeah.
There's different accents in sign language. So in the south, we sign differently to the north. There's 32 different signs for the word purple. I don't know why purple, but we do it differently regionally. So
and you know all of them?
I don't know.
No. Oh my God! I was just going to say.
In fact, you're very, very, very hard to meet a deaf person that does know all the 32 signs for
exactly.
purple.
You'd probably do it, and they're like, I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, okay. So how long had you been back then? Had you been back, for a couple of years before you attempted level 6, or...?
I've been back for around a year, I think about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to take that time to get the confidence back and save up to do the level 6 because it's done in 2 parts.
Right.
So the first part is the theory part.
Yeah.
So you learn about, it's very in-depth, the linguistics, the grammar, the interpreting process. And then the second part is you create a portfolio of you interpreting in different scenarios.
Right.
Evaluate it, and then submit it.
Oh my gosh. So how long does level 6 take then?
It takes around 2 years, but again, you could do it you would do your level 6 theory. You could have a gap if you wanted to just implement all what you've learned and then do the portfolio, or you can just go straight onto it.
So when you completed level 6, you were still at the college?
I think it was, yes. Hang on, let me just think. No, was I at the college? No. So I think halfway through level 6, I thought, right, I'm going to go freelance. I say halfway through. It took me a few months to actually get the guts to take the jump.
Yeah.
But
you knew you wanted more and different from what you were doing.
Yeah, I'd been at the college for a while. And again, my language ability was now on the same level as the other students. I needed to be with grown-ups.
Yeah.
And be exposed to adult situations, work, medical settings, in order for me to expand my vocabulary and my language.
Wow. Okay. So halfway through, you leave.
Yeah.
Start freelancing. For who? What? Where? How?
So at the time, I was still a trainee because I was still doing my portfolio. So there's a limit. I wasn't able to do medical appointments. You have to be fully qualified. Yes, we have to have gone through that.
I'm saying that, but of course all this stuff is stuff I wouldn't have thought about prior to sitting down with you. But yeah.
Yeah, we have to make sure that we are fully qualified. It means we've been vetted, that we have the experience to interpret something like a medical appointment. Because if you get that wrong, if you interpret something wrong, like the amount of tablets someone has to take how many times a day, it can.
Well, also, I'm guessing they ask you questions. They ask the doctor questions.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got to. Oh my gosh, this is almost blowing my mind. Wow. Okay. So you're right. Okay. It's because I have so many questions, but we're going to keep going through the linear process. So you're halfway through level 6. You're a trainee freelancer.
Yeah.
And how are you getting work then? Have you just got website, socials, that kind of stuff?
No, not really. Interpreters don't advertise their services that way.
Right.
There's 2 ways that we advertise. There's direct clients, so it's word of mouth.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And the second one is through agencies. So there's many language agencies, whether they're foreign language agencies, sign language agencies. You just register with them. And at the time when I was a trainee, they knew I was a trainee, so they offered me jobs like working in education.
Right.
I could support I could work in people's places of work, so meetings, one-to-ones, just supporting them within the office with all the communication with the other staff members. So it was those kind of bookings that I would have. And then,
that would have been very different for you. That workplace stuff is very different, isn't it?
What I loved about it is I would go into all these different places of work, and there would be all these different people in all these different job roles, and I just hadn't even considered that these job roles were a thing, and I just was exposed to so much. I love that part of it, because the variety in my job is.
Yeah.
I don't think I can get any more variety, really. It really takes some self-care before you go into those appointments, because you have no idea what you're there for. Most of the times it just says medical. Well, that could mean anything. And sadly, I have had to tell people really bad news.
Oh my gosh, that was going to be... Oh, I was thinking that. That was one of the things in my head.
Yeah. Because you hear it before you interpret it. And there's a real skill in having to hear sometimes that horrible C word that we don't want to hear in a medical setting, and then have to give that to somebody else. But just be very careful that the doctor doesn't say cancer and then my face goes... before I say it to the client. It's really
because they're just looking at you.
They are. And with deaf people, because they don't have the sense of hearing, their sight is always enhanced.
Hyper, so they can pick up on tiny,
so your tiny little eyebrow just popping up, and they're like, what's that?
Yeah.
So we have to be careful. Prior to COVID, I think I had done in my whole career 2 jobs online. It was all face to face. And so there wasn't any provisions for online at the time. Now, I mean, a lot of it's online, but before then it was face to face. Because if you think about it, sign language is a 3D language. You need to see all parts of the body, all parts of the face. And when you put it on a screen, it can be really tricky.
Yes.
And again, you know, with sight and deaf people, they are, you know, they're communicators, so they need to be with interpreters. They need to be with other people.
They need those nuances, don't they?
They do. They need all of that. They need to be able to see the body. They need to see like the parts of the face. And depending on the quality of your camera, depending on how dark the background is, you miss that. And it took a lot away from them. And to add to the fact that they didn't interpret a lot of the announcements at the beginning, they had no idea what was going on. It was awful. It was really bad.
Well, and then there's just a ton of misinformation and stuff out there.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
So I decided, I remember doing this video. On Facebook, I just made a video and I just said, if you're deaf, I'm at home, I'm pregnant, I've got my child, I've got nothing to do other than survive, you know, through whatever's going on. If you need me to make phone calls for you, if you need me to do anything, just message me on Facebook and we can... It was before people knew about Zoom and Teams.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was like we can WhatsApp or we can FaceTime or and I'll help you. I'll make these calls for you because I just thought, I'm here... And there's going to be so many deaf people thinking, not knowing what's going on, that you know they might have their partner, their husband, their child ill at home. They can't contact the GP because the provisions weren't put into place at the time. I said, you know, I'm here if you need it. And it got shared so many times. My friend lives in Cheltenham and she was like, you've just popped up on my local Facebook feed. So it really got out there.
Wow.
And I just thought if I can do anything, that's what I can do right now. It's the only thing I can do.
So you did. I bet. So you were literally just sort of. I bet you were inundated then, weren't you?
Yeah. And then a group got set up, which was quite nice because other interpreters I think saw my video and just thought, you know, we'll do the same thing.
To help. Yeah.
And then I started to get these feelings that I've never had before of wanting some really high success. It was really strange. I didn't know what... Really weird.
Well, you also have like a surge of ambition.
Massive surge of ambition. I am training to be a coach. And I think I might go down the coaching for deaf people, hearing and deaf people, because I've done a lot of self-development in the last couple of years and I feel like I'm finally working out who I am. And I've shed so much shit in that time. And all of the books that I've read, all of the information I see online, it's just completely inaccessible for deaf people. It's not in sign language. A lot of families don't actually sign well enough with their deaf child or, you know, it's sad actually because a lot of parents that do have deaf children, they don't always make the effort to learn sign language. It's actually crazy how many parents I come across with deaf children that don't sign. So it's like, how do you communicate? Oh, we get by with mime. And I just think...
But there's no tone in it. Like you've just said, there's nothing... It's just blank, isn't it? Yeah.
I just think when my daughter comes home from school and she's upset and she's fallen out with a friend, we sit and have that conversation and I support her and I reassure her. But can you imagine not having that because your parent hasn't bothered to learn your language? So they know that there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
But they're just not being given the access. No, which is really frustrating. It must feel
so... I want to say lonely, but almost like you just exclude. It is so isolating. So basically, they're born, they grow up, and they just innately feel isolated.
Yeah.
And like they're not really a part of the world.
Yeah, and not given the same opportunities. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and we were saying about deaf people are actually fantastic workers because
they're not
they don't get distracted.
Yes.
And also they're very loyal. So many deaf people I've met, they've been in the company 20 years, 30 years, 15 years, 40 years, because when they're in and they know what they're doing, they'll stay because they know they might want to jump to another company and they might want to move up career, but they're not given the opportunity. So they just stay safe, which is unfair in itself. I just think if deaf awareness, just a bit of awareness could be taught to everybody.
Yeah.
That would be one small step towards supporting the deaf community.
Because why don't they teach it more in schools? Because of course we've all known that, I mean, even Mr. Tumble, it was just so basic though, wasn't it? And it was almost sort of a joke. Do you know what I mean? It was like, but it's like just, that's when they're sponges.
Yeah.
Just shove it in.
Yeah.
What, really? Is it that hard to just shove some basic sign language in as a fundamental to education?
They're starting to do that now and introducing it at GCSE level, and I know a lot of the schools do it. And so Mr. Tumble, he doesn't do British Sign Language, he does something called Makaton.
He does, yes,
so it's a bit different. But I did, with my first daughter, I did signing with her from a newborn, so just like milk, nappy, a few basic things, and then at 6 months old she signed milk to me. So I just opened that part of her brain up where she could communicate her needs from such a small age.
Yes, before she could even remotely say it.
Yeah, but her language, gosh, at 18 months, it was like speaking to a 4-year-old. Because I think that what I did with her, that communication
was just, it's just innate in her now, like a whole other level. Yeah. Wow.
And at the weekend, I went into London and I was on the train and Southwark Station was closed and they announced it, the driver announced it, but there wasn't any written information. And it was ridiculous. So they said that Southwark Station's closed, but get off at this station because it's quicker to walk than at the next one. So as with again, it was announced verbally and then the train starts going and then we start to slow down around Southwark and then we go through Southwark and then out the other side. And I just thought, if there's a deaf person here, number one, they've got no idea and no way of knowing that Southwark Station's closed. And secondly, what's going on? Like, the train slowing down, and just those things that we don't think about.
Yeah.
And how hard would it be? Because they already had, on the trains they have the attention note.
Yes.
Is
but
there not a way of someone...
No, there would be. I bet there is, but they're just generic preloaded. You're now at here, aren't you? I don't think they're actually dynamic, are they? I don't think they update them there and then.
There should be a way that the driver could just type something in.
Well, if nothing else, I don't think it's funny, people have headphones on all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So actually, the amount of people, hearing people that probably missed.
Yeah, maybe.
We're not massively, we're not all sitting there listening, are we, anymore?
Yeah.
It's not the world we're in. So basically, your what's next is just trying to figure out what more value you can add to deaf people's lives.
Them.
Yeah.
And actually say to them, you have got X, Y, and Z skills, you've got these parts of your personality, okay, let's match that into this big wide world. What can we do for you? And just get them out there and get them visible and give them the confidence. And they're not scary. Some people see a deaf person and think, oh God, and they'll walk the other way.
Well, they don't see them though, do they? That's more often, like you say, because it's invisible.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know.
No, or if they're signing or whatever, people get scared. Hearing people get scared of deaf people because they don't know how to communicate with them. It's like, they're not going to bite you.
Yeah.
They're just asking for directions.
Yeah, just get a pen and paper or something. Yeah, or type it on your phone nowadays. Yeah. Wow, loads to do then.
Yeah.
Okay, so then my 3 final questions are always, is there any life advice that you would give your younger self? Any version of your younger self, but what did you think you needed to know when you were younger? I
would have more self-belief.
Okay.
Yeah. There was at the beginning of my sign language journey, I was telling myself I was struggling to learn it when actually I wasn't. I think that was just a lack of confidence in myself.
Okay. But you didn't give up.
No, I didn't give up. I didn't, because I loved it. And that is what I'm very proud of myself for. I just kept pushing through that little niggling saboteur in my ear, sort of saying, you can't do this, and why can't you remember that sign, and why are you not understanding this part of it? I just kept pushing through. But just to tell myself, just do it.
Yeah.
You can.
You can do it.
Yeah.
And you did.
Yeah, and I did. Here I am.
Okay, the second question is, do you think there's any life advice that your older self would give you now? So 65-year-old you.
Yeah.
What do you think she would say to you now?
I love this question because I have actually been doing a lot of inner work around this. Just don't put any limitations on yourself. I think we tell ourselves, we stop ourselves.
We lie to ourselves.
We do. And they're only stories that we have been taught growing up, that we have been that have been filed into our subconscious. And when we feel that sense of danger, so something's new, a challenge, it takes you back to that time when you were younger. So I think I would just say to myself, just effing go for it.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
don't let anything hold you back, basically.
No.
Okay, then the final question is always just some advice. Now, where you are now, because obviously you're just amazing and brilliant and wise, just advice to throw out into the world, like mantras that you live and die by, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Just be kind to yourself.
Okay.
There will be, if you want to achieve something, you know, and you want to keep going, there's going to be hundreds of times that you're going to want to stop yourself.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. It's not worked before, and the judgments. But I think you need to celebrate you, and we don't do enough of that. That went wrong.
We just move on.
Yeah.
We just keep moving
that
on.
didn't go right. Well, actually,
what
did go right?
We'll wallow, won't we? We really remember the bad stuff.
But what did go right?
I know.
You know, what's done really well? How much further towards your goal have you moved this month, or that week, or that day? So I would just say be kind and celebrate yourself.
Amazing advice. Oh my gosh. I think you're amazing.
Thanks.
And thank you very much for chatting to me today.
No, thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. I think getting my job out there is really important.
Yeah.
Because the turnover is slowing down. People are retiring, people are leaving, and we haven't got enough coming into the industry.
Yeah.
And it'll be deaf people that suffer.
Oh, don't. If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some pics and read about how to get started in this industry and/or this role, then please go to our website www.twerk.org. The link is in this podcast page and across our socials. Sincere thanks.